Hey, HTDA, and today in Final Factory I want to completely redesign my starting facility. I mean, we have some basics going and stuff like that, but I'm actually, well, basically when I closed the game down last time, I was wondering when I was lying in bed, what if we do it completely different? And that is exactly what I want to do. Now, in the meanwhile, just FYI, I'm doing some basic research like bat damage, increasing my fleet size, and stuff like that. Nothing special, it actually takes a little while to do that, so I might as well do that while I'm playing. Now, for what I have in mind, we're going to need a little bit more building space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically explore the zone around us, clear out the enemies that are there, and I'm going to place down some of these defensive platforms to make sure that whatever building space we have available to us is going to be well protected. And there we go. What I've done is actually just flew around and destroyed a whole lot of ships, which was not a problem considering I'm carrying around about 50 of those bats, which I've also upgraded. As you can see, I could actually carry around more, but there was no need to. I don't think I lost a single bat in the process. Not entirely sure if that's tuned correctly, but I'm not complaining. It was a pretty easy chore clearing them out. I actually did find one of each resource deposits like iron, bauxite, and silicon over here in case we need them, but I'm just going to focus on the ones we already have for now. I also placed down some more of those defensive stations all around just to make sure that we're safe. I did actually notice that the fog was every now and then creeping in back here in the middle. Not entirely sure if that's going to be an ongoing thing, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. Let's start actually redesigning our facility. Now I'm going to start with clearing out all the buildings that I already have, and honestly, as you can see, I needed a couple more construction bots for that because the 2 I had were not cutting it, so I went up to 5. Considering I also have a little bit more space in my fleet now, I think I can afford to have a couple more construction bots. Okay, so let's do a little test first. I'm going to place down a couple of mining stations. How close can we actually build them? We can actually build them pretty much on top of this. There we go. And then I want to see if I can transport the items from one mining station to another, and then from the other one into a storage unit. Now, in order to actually test that, I am going to need some mining bots, and apparently all my mining bots died, so be right back making a few. There we go, it works exactly like intended. And by the way, you can actually hide your fleet by pressing F3, which is really convenient because otherwise I wouldn't be able to see what I was doing. Now, I actually considered making a vertical build like this, because it seems a little bit more space efficient. However, the problem is we won't have any place to fit in the solar panels, at least not if I'm going with a fairly straightforward build like I'm doing right now. So I guess I'm staying with this particular build. Now, what we can do is, of course, take the copy function like so, and then add a couple more to that. Now, this is starting to look like an actual industrial complex. Now, what I really like about this layout is that we can easily fit in the solar panels in an efficient place, and we can fit in the cargo holds like this, so they just stick out a little bit, and I think that's going to be important later on so we can easily reach it. However, this by itself is not going to do anything particularly useful, so let's say we build at a 2-block distance away a new factory, which is going to receive these items, then transport them and put them into a atomic printer like this. And then that atomic printer is going to export the low density structure. I think that's the only thing we can make here anyway. And put that in another one of these boxes like so. Now we're going to have to power this. So let's say we put some power here. That's not actually sufficient. There we go. That is sufficient. And then we can stick the actual heat exchanger in here like so. I don't know about you, but this looks pretty cool. Okay, and now we have that. What we can do is use the copy mode and just copy paste this very easily like so. We're actually going to need some of these inserter bots to make sure the resources can get from A to B. These are kind of the drones just moving up and forth and transporting that. And by keeping the build small, again, we have no structure issues whatsoever. Now, in order to put this into a bit more productive type of resource, because we actually don't need low density structures for very much, let's add in a couple more of these like so. And then I actually think we can probably have these bots transport that to the middle ones like this, and then we can use those to start putting that into an assembler or two. And then these assemblers are going to be making plasma engine parts because we are making that from the low density structures. And the ratio between these things is not exactly 2 to 1. It's actually a little bit more than 2 to 1. But, well, this will work just fine as it is right now, I think, for now. The next question is, where are we actually going to be exporting these units? Because we're going to need to have some being exported to what I want to be making a mall. And then we're probably going to need stuff to go elsewhere as well. So for now, what I'm actually thinking is, let's just put this in a storage unit and let's start getting it to actually work. That means that we're going to need to power this. Let's say we put some power in between here and in between here. And then we are going to need to make sure there's an energy exchanger as well. Something like this. And we're going to need to set a filter to actually make sure this gets stored. Well, so far, so good. Actually, hold on. Let's replace these cargo holds with these logistics bays. And then if we place them like this, does that work? Do we need to add any other power? Nope. We do actually need to make sure these things are powered up for some reason. There we go. Why are you complaining about power now? Well, I guess you just need slightly more power than what I'm supplying you. So now you actually start working. Okay. There we go. Now the nice thing about these logistics bays is that we can use the cargo ships to transport across longer distances. And I think I actually want to start doing that like so. So that in this open area over here, what we can do is put down another one of these logistics bays. Something like this, I guess, just to make sure it's nicely aligned with the other one we have. And then I'm actually going to set this to a storage unit like that. Now you might be wondering why. Well, hopefully that will be apparent in a second. We can actually put a solar panel like this, maybe a solar panel like that. You can start exporting, what are we putting in this thing? The plasma engines, there we go. And then we can have another one of these. Actually, I think I want a inserter bot to do that. There we go. I can now crafted an inserter bot. And I can an inserter bot distribute this to an actual building, because what I want to do is have a ship assembler. Let's put that on my bar as well. And then put that here. Not entirely sure if this is working, but what I want to do is build miner bots over here. But no, this is not actually receiving that. So let's put down another one of these boxes. Little boxes on the hillside. Anyway, kudos to you if you can call out the reference in the comments. There you go. And we can have the miner bots being produced over here. Now, why is this not working? Because I haven't actually set the filter and we're not powering this yet. So let's say we are powering it over here. We still need a little bit more power, actually. Let's put that over here. And then we also need a heatsink, of course. There we go. Something like this. So now we're producing the miners again, like we were doing before, but we're producing them in a separate location where we hopefully can make use of some more of those resources that we're transporting here. Now, of course, we're only using half of these resources, but I think that should be fine. Now, let's see how this looks when the mining bots are actually in full operation. Well, this is starting to look like an actual factory. It's working just fine. We have no power issues, no overheating issues. And basically what I've done now is I've replicated what we already had, but in a larger scaled way, which also allows us to more easily scale this in the exact same manner to all around this asteroid if we want. But of course, before I'm going to do that, I'm going to do the exact same process with the other two asteroids because, well, we're going to need some of those other materials as well. Now, I am going to add a little twist to the Iron Asteroid Production Center because we are actually going to need those medium density structures that the the atomic printer is making. We're going to need a lot of those for different types of buildings, but we're also going to need to make a lot of these robotic parts because, well, we need those for more advanced stuff. So basically half of this production is now dedicated to one, and it's actually being collected over here in this logistics bay, and the other half of the production is dedicated to the other. And as you can see, I'm actually going to need to add in a little bit more power, so that should solve it. There we go. And still looking very nice and organized, but just with a little twist compared to the other build over here. Oh man, I was actually hoping to transport these items all the way into my mall over there. At least the starting mall is supposed to be becoming my mall. However, this cargo ship won't actually reach, so I think we need to put in something in the middle. Maybe we can actually do it like this. Ooh, yes, that's going to work out just fine. Can this actually reach? Yes, it can actually exactly reach. Okay, that is awesome. We're going to need to make sure this actually has some power. There we go. And then I can set another one of these like this. Again, does that connect? Really? It's one space out? Okay, hold on. So there we go, I just moved the entire start of the mall a little closer to my actual production factories, and now I don't need that intermediate station either. We can just have these cargo ships moving back and forth. Why are you not doing anything? Well, because apparently you are full. Are you it's kind of hard to tell honestly which one it is connecting to, but considering there's actually output in here, that should be fine. So then what we're going to do is once again export that to somewhere else where there's a little bit more space. Let's do that like this. And then this can output that, and hopefully that will mean, yeah, now it's actually unloading, so it has a bit additional room now in its inventory. Now what's actually interesting is that most of the structures I currently can produce are actually made by medium density structures. Some of them use some other items as well, but a lot of them actually only use medium density structures, for example the cargo holds themselves. So I can start setting up a bit of a mall. So here's the basic idea for my mall. We have basically what we can call a bus over here with different types of items, and then we're feeding those into some assemblers. For example, I have one of them making cargo holds over here, so you can see there's just little drones flying in between this. This is basically stops along the way, and every time one of these buildings actually needs that particular resource, it is being fed into another storage unit over here, and then we start producing that. So this one is, for example, making the logistics base. Now let's see how far we can expand on this idea based on what we already have. Actually, it turns out we can get pretty far. So I'm producing the storage units and the logistics base, but now I'm also producing the heat exchanger. I'm producing struts, connecting items in order to stabilize your structures. I'm also producing the inserter bots, and I'm producing the cargo drones, and that's because we already had the plasma engines in this build. So with just these two resources, we have already been able to build a pretty large mall. Now, I'm really excited about this, so let's add some more items to the mix. Well, I was already making the robotic arms, or whatever these are called, robotic parts, in the factory over here. So I figured, why not just export that and see how much that actually adds to the mall? And the answer is quite a lot of things, because there's actually 6 recipes that I have currently unlocked that use a combination of the 3 resources that I now have in my bus over here. And as you can see, because these are not actually used in the first part of this mall, I can actually just use a transport cargo drone, that's what they're called, a cargo drone, to just export them again through a larger distance. And then I actually switched to using the cargo drones here as well, because this distance from the bottom one over here to the actual factory is too far for an inserter bot. This is just outside of the range, but if I'm going to be adding in more parts of the bus over here, it's definitely going to be out of range. So I figured, why not just switch to the cargo drones? And totally by accident, actually, the cargo drones actually fit in between the different parts of the mall. And as you can see, they're just kind of bouncing back and forth, but that's just fine because it still allows us to bring the robotic parts where they need to go. Now, next up, low density parts, because as it turns out, the low density parts that we're actually producing over here and that I'm now turning into these plasma engines in large numbers, we're actually going to need some raw low density parts as well, because they're used in both the solar panels as well as the connectors. We're going to need a lot of both of those. Let's see if we can keep this simple. I'm just going to copy the build that we already have, but I am going to take out this storage unit over here, replace that with one of these logistics bays, and then add back in the power that should be connected to that. Why is this actually low on power? That's strange. There seems to be a... Every now and then it seems like when you copy down a blueprint or you're copying a part of the base. Now this might actually have been my mistake, but it does feel that whenever I use a blueprint, for example for the bases, like these are the ones over here, every now and then there seems to be a random part missing. It always seems to be the same part, by the way, in this particular design. Specifically, the strut over here seems to be missing every now and then. But I'm not entirely sure if that's something I am doing. I might be right-clicking something by accident, or if that's a bug in the game. I'm not entirely sure. It's not a huge issue though, but anyway, getting off track here. Apologies about that. Let's see, we are going to add in another type of material to the bus. I am going to do that like this. And I'm going to need to get some of our cargo drones. Now, I am making these in the bus somewhere. Let's see, I think it was somewhere over here, maybe? Yes. So let's see, we have 33 waiting for us, so that should be sufficient for a while. Now, I do have to say, the downside of having a mall like this is that it's impossible to tell what is actually in which building. So this is actually just going to be a matter of remembering that. It's still faster than building everything by yourself, but I don't know, maybe for some update in the future, making a way possible to flag these in some way. Maybe that's a technology we're going to unlock later on. I actually don't know, but it is something that is occurring to me while we're playing. Anyway, this will mean we have the low density structures coming in now. We can power this up as well, so this is going to be very easy. Now, there is a problem that these cargo drones kind of get in the way of each other. It doesn't really affect this particular crossing over here. I mean, you do every now and then see them kind of colliding, but this is not going to slow anything down in a significant way. But it did just occur to me that we're going to have a problem, because these things are definitely going to get in the way, so we have to find an alternative for that. So I've replaced all the cargo drones with actually inserters, and then at least my first attempt was this, because I decided to just use intermediate stations in order to actually cover the distance to go vertically. So again, we just have the horizontal line like this, just like before. However, there's a problem, because as you can see, these bots get in each other's way, and specifically this is happening because this bot over here, the idle place for a inserter bot is in the station where it's getting the items from, so the sending destination, if you will. So we can actually easily solve this, I think, with just a little trick. There we go, running like a charm now, and all I've done was actually flip these boxes around so the bots don't get in each other's way, and their default resting position is in a position that's actually not in the route of another bot. That's all there is to it. I actually accidentally did that correctly in the first view, where I did have them the other way around, but yeah, it turns out to be quite vital if you want to do that for other places as well. And using the same trick is really easy to add in the low density structures as well, so we can now produce the connectors and the solar panels. Now, as you can see, I'm just using the cargo ships in order to do the first large distance transport, and then switch to the inserters once we actually get to the part of the mall where the items are being used. I did actually repurpose a part of the mining facility that we started out with, so half of this is now just producing the low density structures. I do want to make sure I have enough of those. And then the other half that we already had in place is now actually delivering the, what are these called again? I keep forgetting the name, the plasma engines. So there we go. All looking pretty nice and organized. And as you can see, well, this is starting to look like an extremely organized factory. I'm really happy about that. Now, in the meanwhile, I've taken so long to do this. I'm actually getting attacked by ships from all distances, and they are taking out some of my bots every time now and then, so I actually lost a couple of the defense platforms and had to replace them. So let's start working on actually automating the defensive bots so we can actually defend ourselves again. Okay, so what I've done over here is make an exact identical layout for my mining operation on atomic printers like we've done before. I'm connecting that with a couple of cargo drones to my bus, or I'm actually going to call this my highway, I think, because look at this, it's turning into like a 6-lane highway over here. And then bringing that all the way to the side of my mall and combining that with the top lane, which has the plasma engines, and that allows us to now make an infinite amount of bats, as well as an infinite amount of asteroid resource bots, which is very convenient because now I can actually continue the resource where we left off. So I fiddled around with it a little bit more to make it slightly more organized, and as you can see, it's now nicely humming along. Look at all those inserters moving around, those cargo bots moving around, and all those early game buildings being completely automatically produced. We have our miners up and running, we have our science up and running. Honestly, I actually didn't do anything new in this episode other than completely arranging my my space stations. That's what they're called. It's not actually a factory, it's a space station. And honestly, it was a lot of fun to do that. And I do think that is actually one of the strengths of this game, because it's just a little bit different than most of the other games that you have around, which, I mean, the concept is the same thing, but the implementation is a little bit different, and that makes it yet another fun puzzle to kind of optimize your way through, design your way through, and make things look as neat and organized as possible. At least that's what I like about these games. But honestly, if you just like exploring and exploring a map, destroying the enemies, taking new resources into your factory and things like that, that also works very well in this game. So just another demonstration of where you can go and what you can do. Now, I am going to play this a little bit more, and I'm definitely going to want to actually figure out what is down the rest of this technology tree, because even though we've already built quite a few things, as you can see, there's a lot more to do. So I'm looking forward to doing that. If you're still here, you're awesome, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.